So after a difficult time in our life, I thought we needed a vacation, and I asked my son where he would like to go. And he replied that he would like to go to all 50 states. I said, well, I don't know about all 50, but I'll take you to some of them. This is our 4th year in a row on our trek to see all 50 states, and this time we decided to go to New England. We got to see 9 states. It was quite the adventure. The weather was great, and I'm going to share our adventure and some hacks with you. I'm Juliet, the guardian of an angel. So here are some of my travel hacks. One, the first thing I did was I made sure that Maddie had the most comfortable seat for the long rides. So I took her special tomato. I bought online a cover. It's a car seat cover that keeps it nice and dry. And since her special tomato is falling apart and peeling because it's quite old, it also helps. The cover also helps in that way. It keeps foam from going everywhere. I propped pillows up under her feet, made sure that they weren't just hanging, like cutting off circulation where her legs would hang, and that's how we spent the trip. So that's my first suggestion for traveling. Bedding. What about your child sleeping? Do they fall on the floor? Do they thrash? Like, I don't know what yours does, but my angel could fall on the floor, fall off of any bed. If she's in the bed with me, if it's a big enough bed, we can sleep together, and she does curl up right next to me, usually uncomfortably so. For me to get a good night's sleep and to do all this driving and to feel rested, most of the time I need her to spend the night in her own bed or somewhere else. And if she's screaming her head off all night, like one night she did, she's got to go in a separate room with the door shut. At home, I have a wonderful special needs hospital type bed that I bought secondhand, very affordably. When we're out and about, the safest thing to do is to be on the floor. Or some other hacks that I will share with you. So I'm going to show you, this one is great, if it's available, is when you push a couch up against a wall and you have to prop stuff against it so they can't kick against the wall and push it out. And if your child can do that, then it's not a great hack, but it works perfect for Maddie. If you don't have the couch that you can push against the wall, or you don't have a mattress that you can put on the floor, I use these puzzle pieces. I could probably do an entire video off the uses of puzzle pieces. Not necessarily all for special needs. My kids, my boys, have done a million things with these puzzle pieces. Puzzle pieces are a fantastic bed anywhere situation. There's a few things you can do that kind of put a little bit of a border to the edges. It's not that, I'm not going to say it's that strong a border, but it does help. It does kind of deter moving out of the puzzle piece zone. I bring a piece of foam. I also have some camping pads that inflate with air. Those make great beds and they fold up real small. But I'm going to show you how I do the puzzle pieces. Of course, you can do the whole floor in puzzle pieces. And I also think it's a great idea for children to spend a lot of time on the floor. Anyway, connect them. I can put them as kind of a little wall so that she won't like scooch under the bed or give her padding against any kind of piece of furniture or obstacle that she could bump up against. And puzzle pieces are a great thing to make soft floors everywhere. Our stop in Virginia led us to the Natural Bridge. And I've got to say, this was a very pleasant surprise for all of us. First of all, they had a place to park that was handicap accessible and very close to the bridge. And it was gorgeous. There was eagles flying up there. It was very tall, very magnificent. We just loved it. On top of that, the trail went on. It was just a beautiful walk. It was a beautiful day. There was a few more things to see. Nothing was more impressive, of course, than the Natural Bridge, but it was some great scenery, and the wheelchair went on almost all of it. So that was our quick stop into Virginia, and we enjoyed it. In Maryland, I decided to go sailing because that is something that I've never done and Maddie's never done. It was not handicap friendly. I had to carry Maddie and hold her in my lap the whole time. It had a nice, solid bench seat and a little corner that I tucked her into, so that made it easier to hold on to her, unlike later on another situation, which I'll share. But they were very helpful. The crew helped me get her aboard. Very helpful son stuck her in my arms, and I pretty much sat there for the rest of the trip. It was less than 2 hours. It was great, and we really enjoyed it, and Maddie really enjoyed it. She likes being on the go. After our trip, we made a short walk to eat the obligatory Maryland crab cakes, very different from what we have in the South. And we stopped at Biddy and Bo's. It's a wonderful organization where they employ special needs children, and so I love to go to that place. This is Rhode Island, and I can't say enough about. I could have stayed a lot longer in Rhode Island. It was just gorgeous. It was on the coast. Of course, I experienced a beautiful day. We then went on to the Breakers Castle by the Vanderbilts. That was beautiful, and they were very accommodating of Maddie. Maddie couldn't see everything, but they let her ride the original elevator up and down, and they let her see as much as she could see, and we really enjoyed it. There was also a wedding there and just beautiful gardens. Could have made a whole day out of that, but it is actually situated directly in front of the next thing I really wanted to see, which was the Cliffs Walks. Beautiful scenery on the coast of Rhode Island and paved, handicap accessible. I wish I had had the time to make a whole day out of walking those cliff walks and seeing those. And then at one point you get to some beautiful mansions. Part of it is just the beautiful coast and the rocks, very different from what I'm used to here down south, where we have this white sand beaches, which I prefer, but it is beautiful to see the rocky beaches as well off the coast of New England. In Massachusetts, it was my son's birthday. Well, unfortunately, this day was Labor Day, and so there were not many available whale watching tours. They were all booked. It's actually quite an ordeal to plan a trip like this, where you have to figure out where you need to stay versus where you're going to be seeing the things you want to see. Finally found a place that had a couple spots left. I said, "You're in Massachusetts, right?" They said they were. So I booked it, only to find out that they were 2 hours in the wrong direction of where I had planned our Airbnb stay. They were right at the end of the hook. But what are you going to do? You're already driving 6 to 8 hours a day anyway. Might as well add 2 more. We figured out that we had just enough time to stop at the replica of the Mayflower, which was super fun, but it was not handicap accessible. It had walkways and stairs, and so Maddie didn't really get to see anything but the outside of the Mayflower replica. It was a quick stop. We took turns just running around the boat just to see what it might have been like and what life might have been like back then. Pretty neat that we got to squeeze that in for our amazing whale watching trip. And the boat was about an hour and a half ride out way in the ocean to see whales. And we got some great views of the whales, and they made sure that Maddie could see them too, because there was a lot of people and a lot of crowds, and that was just pretty neat. We don't get to see whales very often. It was very exciting. There was an inside portion that was very nice if you wanted to get out of the breeze. It was a little bit chilly, so we did take a break in there, and there was windows where you could see from there. I don't feel like it was as good a view, so we didn't really stay in there, except at the very end when we were on our way back. I guess my tip here would be to get in line early. You needed to be in line before the boarding time because there was already a long line there, and so you can get a spot because most of the handicap section was taken up and the whole boat was not accessible. And then when you wanted to ride back in the inside, you needed to get in there before everybody inside, before the boat started heading back, knowing that the inside is going to fill up because now the trip is over and people just want to rest and relax. Since Maine was the farthest place from us, I decided to spend 2 days in Maine. We had a great time. Again, the weather was beautiful. We stopped to see a safari zoo reserve because we knew we were going to get to see a moose there. But anyway, we had a great day walking around. It was a lot of walking. It was pretty handicap accessible. Nice flat trails for walking around, so Maddie got to see everything that we got to see. But it was beautiful, and we did get to see a moose. He was kind of sleepy, a little underwhelming, but definitely a great day for a walk and to see some different, unusual animals. After that, of course, we had to stop and get a lobster roll. Poor Maddie doesn't get to eat these lobster rolls, but we did. My son loved it. I gave him half of mine. We went to see one of those beautiful covered bridges at Bard Creek. There was a rope swing there. The water was chilly, but fantastic and clear. Okay, it's pretty much not handicap friendly, especially to do all those things, but there was a little walking trail next to it. Unfortunately, a tree had fallen across it, so we couldn't get very far. My son got to go swimming. Did take a moment just to jump in that water, say we did it, and get to go swimming. Honestly, I loved it. I wish I had her inflatable kayak with me. Would have loved to have made a day of that. but I didn't. Our second day in Maine was spent in Portland. We were taking a boat to Peaks Island and expecting to see lighthouses, but it was overshadowed by Maddie's extreme agitation, which was particularly evident in a very echoey tunnel that made us very conspicuous, and we were just trying to get out of there and trying to get to somewhere else. We finally got to a spot that was very beautiful, but after walking and hearing the fussing all day, we were ready to be done with it, and we just took our boat ride back and made our way to our next destination. I'll also say it wasn't the most wheelchair-friendly experience. You could take your car on the boat so that you could drive Peaks Island, and there were golf carts for rent there. I didn't see any ones that were particularly suited for someone that can't sit in a regular seat like Maddie, but I also wasn't looking for it. We just walked around. It wasn't very smooth. It was a lot of rough and hilly areas. I really have to include New Hampshire and Vermont as one because we were running out of vacation days and I couldn't really spend a lot of time in Vermont. New Hampshire, we did take the Cog Railway to the highest mountain in New Hampshire. It was not handicap friendly. Although it does say in the brochure that the base and the top are handicap friendly, I'm still gonna say overall that it's not. Even getting into the building at the top, you have to go over quite a bit of gravel, and you can't take your wheelchair up. You have to use their foldable wheelchair, which has no straps. Also, riding the rail up that is very long and slow. It goes 5 miles an hour. Maddie was fussy, and the bench seat is like, I don't know, made for elves, perhaps, because it's pitched forward and it's very small. So I was definitely having to hold on tight to Maddie the whole time. It was a bit uncomfortable. They were very friendly. I love the people there. I don't feel like it was false advertising. I just feel like, I did it, and I did it with help, but it was a little difficult. Some people can hike. You can also drive up there, and then you could bring your own wheelchair. I didn't really know about that. So we rode the railway. It was gorgeous. We took turns hanging out with Maddie while we walked around a little bit to see the views. I did feel a bit of a bummer that Maddie couldn't. Maybe it would be great if there was an all-terrain wheelchair up there. That'd be pretty neat if once you got to the top, there was a special wheelchair, like a giant jogging stroller like I have for Maddie. But there wasn't, so we just kind of hung out up top. I was holding on to her in her wheelchair so that she didn't tump out because there was no straps. And I thought the museum was very interesting, especially the part where they have every person's death and the cause of their death since the 1960s on that mountain listed. I was like, that's actually pretty interesting. So, beautiful day. We did enjoy it. The next day we went to Vermont, but we didn't get to stay the night in Vermont. And all we did was do a lookout over the gorge. The gorge was beautiful. It had a handicap accessible viewing path. And then we ate tacos and headed to Connecticut. So here's where I use that hack I use a lot of times, where I push a couch against the wall. I make sure it's almost unmovable, and Maddie slept very well in it. After we left there, we went to a castle. It was beautiful. I would have loved to have seen the inside, but again, everything apparently in New England closes after Labor Day. I guess winter's coming. Things I don't think about here down south. Anyway, very jealous of this castle. Would love to live there. It's on a beautiful piece of property. Reminds me a little bit of the Neuschwanstein Castle that I saw when I was in my 20s, where not only is the castle stunning, it's just on the most beautiful piece of property, and this was also that. So we were able to walk around the outside and look at it, and that was about all we could do. Our stop in Delaware wasn't quite as expected. We were disappointed that one of the main things we wanted to do was closed, because it was after Labor Day. We did stop at a really neat tour of a police station with a museum. Unfortunately, I didn't get any video from that because I didn't get to see it because Maddie was screaming her head off. She had a few hormone issues, and there was a couple days during our trip that she was less than happy. One of the time spans she spent basically crying for 46 hours. That was not a fun day. So in Delaware, I saw this brochure, and it said it had a handicap accessible trail, and I thought, well, I had already done Cliffs Walks, which was amazing, handicap friendly, and I thought, well, we should go check it out. Sometimes I'll just say things aren't quite worth the drive. So in this particular instance, I would say don't go out of your way for this handicap accessible walk. And while some of the fault may lay with me and not exactly knowing what a half-a-mile walk is, I will say that sometimes things aren't quite what you expect. And that does it for this adventure. Follow and subscribe, leave a comment or a link to your adventures. I'd like to see your ideas too.